Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Lance Neighborhood Livability Association. I guess I have to read this. To show respect for our speakers and your fellow attendees, please silence your cell phones. I'll skip reading the announcements. They're all on the agenda. Our first speaker is going to be Executive Director Billy Anderson with Rose City Detox.
Hi, everybody. Hi. My name is Billy. Can you hear me without this thing? Is this okay? Yeah. I can talk pretty loud.
I can hear you. This is for Neola here.
As long as you can hear me, I'd rather do it without if you don't mind me hearing.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm the Executive Director of Rose City Detox. We're located off of 127th and Polegate. So we're here in your community. I am somebody that's here. I'm in long-term recovery. I've been in recovery since January 5th of 2012. And so I've had some time in addiction myself. I used to live in a tent off of 92nd and Powell, so I'm no better than anybody that I serve on a daily basis. I've been through detox and treatment multiple times myself. For me, there's a lot of different things that kind of pushed me into recovery. I could go on and try to tell you why or how it happened, but I don't really know, still to this day. I just found something that was worth living for and worth recovering for. And so that's what I did, is I stayed involved in a program, and I started working in the field in 2013. I've worked at another detox program. I've always kind of been in like an administrative level. Worked for outpatient. I own sober living homes in Vancouver, Washington. I have 4 of those. I've been doing that since 2019. I am a certified intervention professional, and so kind of like the TV show Intervention, if you've ever watched that, that's really like where my heart lies, is in family services, trying to understand how to help addiction from not just the one person, but from the whole family unit. And the thing that really kind of pushed me into doing this whole detox thing was my experience as a patient in the detox programs that I went through. I'm an alumni, as they say in this field, of Hooper. I went there 5 different times. Every time I did, they would kind of come up to me in the morning and say, hey, by the way, you're stable. It's time for you to leave. And I would get my little bag of medications and a list of places to call, and they would send me on my happy way. So I never really had that like case management situation during my active addiction. I would never really ask for it. There's multiple times that I wasn't ready for treatment, but the one time that I did ask was the last time that I went there. And the guy said, I'm really glad you've been here so many times. We want to help you. I went into his office the next day to talk to him about the placement that he wanted to give me, and his office was dark. And the lady next to him said, oh, he took off to a vacation in Africa. And I just took that as a sign from God that like it was time for me to die. And I wasn't going to get help, and that was just the way it was. For some reason, I went back to my tent. All my stuff was gone. I got real angry, went through some stuff, and ended up on my dad's front porch. And that day, he decided to help me, and I got into treatment for the very last time. And what happened for me is that I got into a treatment program that was long-term. I stayed there for 91 days. I left the Portland area. I lived out on the coast for about a year. And just happened to get the right people at the right place at the right time to help me. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time, and as a professional on the other side, in the places that I've worked for, when I referred somebody into detox, I can't even tell you how many times I would get the call. It's 2 things that happen. It's either from the patient themselves saying, hey, they discharged me. I don't know where to go. Or it's from the case manager, and it's, hey, they have to go, they're stable, it's time for them to go right now today. And I would say, hey, we should have talked for the last 3 days or 4 days. I'm trying to scramble to make this thing happen. This person's at risk of going back out into the street. As hopefully most of you know, the relapse risk for somebody that's leaving detox after they have successfully been detoxified from their substance, if they relapse, the chances of them having an overdose and dying are skyrocketed. And so for me, just seeing that gap in Detox really drove me nuts. I'm not the type of person to get super resentful. I'm generally a pretty nice guy nowadays. But it really rubbed me so much the wrong way that I've decided to hedge everything that I've built over my entire life in recovery on trying to open this place. The ownership is me and 3 other guys. None of us are very wealthy men. We've all refinanced our houses to make this happen. We took no grants. We took no dollars from the state. This is all privately funded. But we still take Oregon Health Plan. We still do the private insurance. I have a really reasonable, in my opinion, cash pay rate just to try to make this thing happen. We're not out for money. We have to be successful, of course, in order to keep helping people. But we're really in this to try to change this community and give somebody different. I grew up in this neighborhood. I played at Lentz Little League when I was a kid. I played at Mount Hood Little League. That was my home league. You know, I'm from here. I was born in the Flats, raised in the Flats. I left the Flats and said I was never coming back, and here I am. So, you know, for me, it's a little bit more than just like trying to find a good building to do a detox in and serve this need and make some money. I want to make something different. Every single staff member that I've talked to, that I've hired on our staff, I told them if you're not willing to put in the work and somebody leaves here with a bag of medications and a list of places to call, and that's all that they got from us, I will shut this place down and lose everything. It's either that or we're going to do this the right way and we're going to make sure that they're connected to something. It may not be residential treatment because sometimes we don't have openings. Unfortunately, this state is 51 out of 51 in access to care. We do not have the treatment center beds that we need. So sometimes we're giving them into intensive outpatient with sober living. Sometimes we're getting them into just sober living. Sometimes we're getting them into residential. We have a bunch of different places that we work with. I'm not beholden to anybody, so I can work with anybody I want to. And luckily for the last 13 years, it's all I've done is try to make connections and place people in the right places. For a safety thing, we are right next to an elementary school, right? Which is kind of the whole reason why I was on the news and I was in the radio stations were interviewing me. And a lot of people had some concerns that were really valid. If somebody was opening up a treatment center right next to my kids' elementary school, because I have elementary school with great children, I would be really concerned on how they were going to operate based on some of the way that our lovely treatment centers here do operate. I'm sure that you guys know, some of them can be a little bit scary when you go driving up to them. So I put some safeguards in place regardless before all of this stuff happened with the news and before everything got involved. We're doing appointment only, we don't do the lineups. So usually in treatment centers, really across the state, people will line up in the morning and they'll hopefully be able to get in. And if they don't, what that creates is an open air drug market. And people are, trading stuff and doing stuff. I won't do it. Nobody can show up to my facility without an appointment. Every person that calls in, they are screened over the phone. We give that information to our doctor to make sure, number one, that we can help them, that they're not too psychiatrically acute because we're not a psychiatric facility. And medically, we can help them and not have to transition them out to the hospital right away. I also do a background check through the criminal justice information system. So if there's a sex offense, arson offense, or a violent offense, we don't take them. I'm really strict about how we do things, and it's caused a lot of ire from the folks that are in this community because they want me to be the place that they can just dump their problem on. I'm not doing that yet. We're still taking people from the deflection centers, from the other programs. As long as they're motivated over the phone, they're willing to go through our process, I'll bring them in. And hopefully, we can get these people on to the next step. We have had about 5 situations. We've only been open for 2 months, I should say. We've had about 5 situations where we could not get somebody into the next step of services, in which case I brought them back. I transported them out of the neighborhood back to where they were coming from, into their apartment or whatever. But I don't let them just loose. They don't walk out into the road and we say bye. We've had a couple that did take off and run, and we don't chase them or anything because we can't. But as far as it goes, I don't drop problems in this neighborhood because I don't think that that's a good service either. So there's a few pieces of just how we operate and kind of why I'm doing this. I hate doing long monologues though, and I've already done it for about 5 minutes. So, please tell me, ask questions, thoughts, anything like that. I'm sure that there are questions. I love questions. It makes it a lot easier for me to go.
So when you take them in and you say you detox them, what method do you use to detox them?
There's about 5 different protocols that we have. Most of it started with comfort medications, and so they kind of get through the worst part of it with comfort adjuncts, or what they're called. And then we'll utilize either buprenorphine, methadone for opiates. We have a phenobarbital taper for somebody that's abusing Xanax or alcohol to an extreme degree. We have Librium taper and Ativan taper. And then for amphetamine use, we do a bunch of different things. It's primarily around mental health medications.
What about fentanyl? Because I hear that takes a long time to get out of your system.
It does and it doesn't. So the way to do it is to really put the person in for that first 24 hours. As we were talking about at the table there, it's kind of like an exorcism. They go through a lot of hell there for a little while. But we give them additional medications just to kind of help them through. And then we'll put them on a buprenorphine dose so they can either titrate and get done with it, or they'll stay on buprenorphine so they will be blocked from getting high, which is the next real step post-addiction. If you're on Suboxone or buprenorphine is what they call it, it blocks your opioid receptors. So when you go and you try to get high after detox, it doesn't work. And so you're really like spinning trying to figure this thing out, and it will block you from being able to overdose and die.
So what about methadone? Because I've heard that if you smoke pot and take methadone, you still get high.
Methadone is not the same as buprenorphine.
Right.
Definitely a lot different. So there's a lot more of a gateway for that to be able to get other opiates that are on there. It still does have medicinal effects in the sense that it stops them from getting high, because they would rather use the methadone instead because it's prescribed by a doctor. And if they relapse, then they have to come to a place like me. So I work with a lot of different methadone clinics to try to get people off of the street and into our program off of the fentanyl, but they stay on their dose. There is some federal laws around methadone that makes it really, really tough to change anything that we can't do as a provider, which is kind of an interesting conundrum that we're in. But yeah, we do a methadone taper as well and try to get them back into the clinic. It's a long-term process to get off of methadone.
Yeah, I know people that are on it for life, basically.
Yep.
What about Trank? How do they get off of that?
Trank is a new one. We just had one of them the other day. We used a bunch of different medications. We were using benzodiazepines to help them get through it because essentially buprenorphine doesn't work. And so it's not the same mechanism to get high. The main issue with those are the infections and stuff that they're getting. Lots of pretty gnarly stuff coming from it. So it's a newer thing. They were talking about doing some additional like ketamine-based things. My senior medical consultant has his ASAM doctorate, which is like a American Society of Addiction Medicine. He goes to a lot of those, events where they're talking about different protocols and new substances that are coming out. And every Friday we meet and just kind of go over, do we need to change anything? Is there something that's going on? Plus our partnership with the laboratories that we have, we can really see what's going on. Which is another thing that we do as well. We send out everybody's drug screen to a lab so we actually know what they're coming in with, what they're using. We do blood draws and we can get their liver enzyme results and everything back within 24 hours to really try to give them a whole health experience. The thing that's really important to me is giving them a different environment. Most of these detoxes, they'll put you all in a room. And so there's 16 beds that are in this facility inside it's like a dorm room. And if you have 16 people that are all sitting there groaning, puking, hurting. One of my experiences as a patient, I was trying to go to sleep and I was having a hard time, and the guy next to me was sleeping with his eyes open, and he said, "I'm gonna kill you tonight. Once you go to sleep, I'll kill you." And so I went over to the nurse and I was like, "Hey, I'm not trying to cause a scene or anything, but he says he wants to kill me and he's sleeping with his eyes open, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep tonight." And they just said, "Oh, that's Jerry." And I was like, "Cool, well, I'm going to go ahead and leave now," because they wouldn't help, right?
Start snoring and see what he does.
I couldn't think that far ahead. I was scared, And so I left treatment that day and went right back to my tent. And so we have individual rooms. So they're all individual rooms. They're all camera recorded. So where we make sure that the patients are in there, they're safe. If they have a seizure, if they fall, if they get hurt or something, the nurse is watching it. It's on a monitor in the nursing office. We are also the highest staffed detox in the entire state of Oregon, by far. So we have nursing on each wing at all times, on the men and the women's wing, CNAs on each wing at all times. So, and then detox techs, which are like recovery mentors, plus additional support staff like myself and our cooks and everything. So we keep eyes on them, you know. But it's tough. The new substances are really rough, and at least they have their own space to go into when they're going through the worst of it, and we can have our own space as well to come into their room and talk to them and say, hey, tell me what you're feeling, tell me what you're experiencing, let's put the monitors on you, let's figure this out, rather than saying, oh, we'll go back to your bed in the milieu and people are screaming and writhing around you. So I have a different environment, but the difference is the new substances. It's going to be a really interesting year, let's just say that.
So how long are they at your place?
5 to 7 days.
9 to 7 days?
Five to
to
7.
7 days.
Yep. So that's all that we get from an insurance standpoint. That's really on the upper end of things. Most of the time, detoxes will keep you for 1 to 2 days. Hospitals usually keep you for about 12 hours. They'll put you on a dose and then send you on your way. Most of the detoxes today are 24 to 48 hours at most, and then they come in the morning and do what I say. They say, hey, you're stable, it's time for you to go, we're gonna get you on to the next step.
So are they clear enough? Is their brain clear enough? It's 5 to 7 days to
No, we can't sugarcoat that at all.
Oh.
Definitely not. But what you can do is get through the worst of it, which is that
Right.
first 3, and they have some cognizance to be able to start making decisions. Their frontal lobe is definitely still not working. Decision making is not fully activated at that point at all. But you can say, like, here's some options for you, and if you stay with us for day 4, 5, and 6, by that point we have way more time to be able to talk with you to get you into that next step, and you can make more of a cognizant decision. Most people, we call it cured. They're cured within day 3. Oh, I'm feeling better. I don't need to be here anymore. And we say, hey, remember when we told you on the front end of things when we were over the phone? We want you here to get you to the next step. Don't you want to get to the next step? And most of them, if you say, we can probably get you housing, they go, oh yeah. And they'll sit down and participate. But sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're like, I'm ready to go back. I want to go back to my apartment. I don't need this anymore. I'm fine. But it's a struggle, right? And we have to get them when they're willing.
At my House Representatives town halls, it's probably been 2 years ago, she had a number of people in there that were housing first advocates,
Yeah.
demanding housing first.
Yeah.
And they tried to do that at the old Roadway Inn up in Park Rose.
Very familiar.
And they had fights, fires, sex trafficking,
Yep.
drug trafficking, all this.
Yep.
And when I brought that up, they shouted me down. They said, oh, no, there's nothing like that happened or whatever. Well, that night there happened to be a speaker coming in that, I don't know if he had the firsthand experience that you've enjoyed, but he was pretty knowledgeable, and he said, no way. There's no way you could take somebody off the street and put them in a house, in your apartment or whatever, and expect that they're not gonna live exactly the same way they did on the street.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, my friend and I were discussing it a little bit ago here. He said that after somebody's been doing heroin or meth or whatever for a long period of time,
Yeah.
then it's almost impossible for them to go straight. Now, I read somewhere here a while back, and they said that if somebody's done meth for a long time, it actually rewires the chemistry in the brain.
It does.
And there's not much of a way to come back from that.
I would rebuttal that with the proof that you're sitting in front of right now.
Cool.
Also, the 20 other members that are in my home group that have been there for a decade plus that all did that.
Has there been much xylene coming into Portland?
Xylazine is what you're talking about?
Xylazine, is that it?
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Because I've heard they've been whacking meth and
Oh yeah, they're.
fentanyl with that.
Most of the people that we're getting in are using meth, and they're testing positive for fentanyl and other substances, and they're saying, I don't do that. We say, yes, you do, you know, and it's a wake-up call. I mean, as far as it goes, I mean, the housing first model didn't work because you didn't have any moment of clarity.
I think they're still pushing it.
They are,
Sort of.
Multnomah County is,
Sort of.
yeah.
They're starting to come around, it seems. But
Good old Multnomah County, just because something fails just means you haven't spent enough money on it.
well, and here's the thing, right? I am trying to be that triage, right? If I can get them at least somewhat clear, then maybe they'll change their behavior with the right support. But we don't send them to those type of places. We send them to like recovery places with housing that has accountability and structure, right? People that want just a temporary reprieve don't usually make it through our process. There's a reason why I do a phone screen for 15 minutes. If you don't want to go through it, you're not the right fit for our program, because that means that you don't want to change. It's a 15-minute phone call. You would be shocked at how many people say, I don't want to do that.
Can I have one of your business cards? I know somebody that's strung out on Fetty or whatever, and, you know, they could use all the help they could get.
It's back over there, and I got little brochures over there too.
I could add a little bit to what Dave was talking about the housing. I worked for 7 years in Vancouver as janitor / maintenance person in 4 different buildings. That it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Putting them in, we had all kinds of problems. Like I said, we had fires, we had floods, had drug dealing in the apartments.
Yeah,
And once they're in, it takes an act of God to get them out.
it does. And,
I mean, we had people attacked. They came after me before too.
oh yeah,
I had to lock myself in the janitor room.
yeah.
It's like, I mean, it doesn't work.
I have 32 dads in Vancouver that I've operated for about 7 years now, and for sober living, you know, and those are my environments. Is I take the folks from places like mine if they want to get some change in their life, and you'd be shocked at how many people come to me and they say, "What do you mean I have to go to 5 recovery-related meetings per week?" And I say, "Yeah, do you want to change?" And they say, "Well, I mean, yeah, okay, well, if you do, then this is going to work really well for you. If you don't, you'll be out of here before you know it, and you'll be right back into the same scenario. So it's up to you." And we're never full, never. But the people that are there are getting change, and that's what's most important. So I have a lot of accountability and structure around my houses to avoid what you're talking about. I could make money hand over fist and just shove people into those houses, but that's not my goal. And I know it doesn't work, because
That's what they're doing in Vancouver.
Yeah.
It's just terrible.
Yeah. Oh, I think you had your hand up first.
Go ahead. Well, you know, all this problem with drugs around here, I think the biggest solution is shut down all the drug shops.
Yeah, you
But
think.
the city or the alcohol division is making so much money that they don't want to shut them down. And all these people are getting drug happy. And to me, it is so stupid that you're feeding the druggies. You know, and you look at almost every corner, you're gonna find a dope shop.
Are you talking about the pot shops?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pot shop or
Yeah.
dope or whatever,
Yeah.
pot shop, yeah.
Yeah, marijuana.
You don't look like a Jenny, but,
No, sorry, that's my main line. That's our 24-hour line that people answer. Not 24 hours, I'm sorry, but there are people that are there 24 hours.
okay.
The admissions line goes from like 6 in the morning until about 9:30 at night. And so we try to take calls all day long. I have 5 different people answering that phone. If I gave you my cell phone, the amount of times that this thing goes off, I would never be able to answer. So I try to give out that one. That way, if somebody is calling, I know it's something that is related to something I gotta really handle.
So this number is 24/7?
Yep.
Okay.
You can give it out, no problem.
Do you work with Bybee Lakes? at
Uh,
all?
they were just out touring our facility, and so I haven't gotten super close with them.
Okay.
I'm very wary about folks that I don't particularly know, because of the industry can get kind of funky. You know, I've been all over this country touring treatment programs, and they seem like decent people, so I'm gonna continue to explore it. But I don't refer unless I've actually set foot in there. I need to know that they're doing the right thing,
Right.
rather than just start sending people.
Let me know, because I think originally when Alan Evans started it, I
Yep.
think he had the right direction.
Yeah.
But then he started taking money from the county, and I'm just hoping he didn't default to whatever they were doing.
Well, and that's the conundrum that you run into, right? I mean, part of the reason why it took us 2 years to open this is because I didn't take grants.
Yeah,
So there was no control,
yeah,
other than state law, which of course we
Yeah.
follow, but I
Right.
mean, I think so, I don't know. You know, maybe I'm wrong.
we don't take grants either, that's why we can do whatever we want.
Right. Yeah, so I think that, but it's a draw because it's such a losing proposition for most, you know, if you invest in this stuff,
Uh-huh, Yeah.
it's the dumbest investment you could do.
yeah,
To invest in recovery related things, you know, but you have to have a passion for it. Every other month I get a call from some guy that's talking about my real estate portfolio because of my sober livings. And they're saying, well, you know, I want to open a sober living because I heard that they're so
Profitable.
lucrative.
uh-huh.
And I'm like, okay, well, here's my books. We make $20,000 a year for Lucky.
Yeah.
And we invested $120,000 into these things, so we won't get paid back for 12 years.
Uh-huh,
You know, do you want to do it? And they're like, no. I'm like, right, so don't do it unless you care.
yeah,
You know, or you could do what everybody else does and throw bunk beds in the houses and throw 15 guys in there and you'll have nothing but problems, but
right,
you'll make money, you know?
yeah.
And it's up to you.
How many units in Portland are there that attempt to provide recovery?
I mean, as far as like programs themselves,
No, how many units, like how many rooms?
it's a good question. I know that there's about 130 beds that one of my friends owns for sober living. Another company probably has like 90.
I was thinking like thousands.
There's probably conservatively about 1,000 beds for recovery, but the problem is that they're so underfunded. You know, we don't get paid by anybody. Most of the people have to come up with it on their own.
So, does that include like the 24-hour thing that you're talking about?
Yeah, my sober livings. Are you talking about those as like an example?
No, I'm actually not talking about what you have. I'm talking about, you seem like the 1% or less than 1% that is trying to do this right
Yeah.
and not for the money.
Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering how many others out there that are in it for the money, that are not solving the problems.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've been all over this country. I've been all over Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Northern California, toured programs, you know, in Florida and Texas and Arizona. I've been all over, right? It used to be a lucrative endeavor. And so a bunch of different like hedge funds bought into recovery centers because there was money to be made. And it definitely turned things a little sour.
Are people not making money now that don't have the right intentions?
Not really. You know, a lot of these really big conglomerates that bought into these programs they're all dying because it used to be that you could bill a crazy amount of money and they just said, well, to hell with the insurance, you know, they'll figure it out. And then insurance did figure it out and they said no more. And so they cut off one by one over the last 13 years of my career. They've cut off everything. You don't get paid for housing anymore. You don't get paid for food anymore. You don't get paid for services. I was told on my side, you know, you get 1 day rate, that's it. You get no other ancillary services. And I was saying, well, I'm going to provide, you know, this, and this, which is like case management, family-centered services, you know, do education, addiction training for families out in the community. And they said, yeah, nope. So if you want to do that, all that stuff, you'll have to do it on your dime. Which is fine, right? I don't care. But I was like, well, I'm not looking to get rich, but these all have to make sense, right? So I don't know. I don't know how people are really making money in this stuff nowadays. Even in the private sector, where they have these real fancy treatment programs that cost $100,000 a month. There's a lot of them.
How is their success rate compared to the average treatment?
No different, in my experience. I've worked both in public and private sector. They're no different. You know, the main difference is stability. So somebody can leave there and their family can pay for aftercare services. And so they'll be more likely to engage, but their success rates are about the same.
Well, the thing I don't understand, the city of Portland wants to get rid of the drugs off the street, right? I don't understand, they wanna put their money in concrete and all that kind of crap, but why, I don't understand why they don't support you, you know, with, you know, they're selling all these drugs and everything, but why they don't support an outfit like you instead of spending their money helter-skelter?
Well, and I'll tell you, they are trying to support the programs in this area that are not making a ton of money, right? They've given out millions of dollars in grants to a lot of the programs that have been around, like Hooper, right? Central City Concern got a very, very large grant this year, trying to help with expanding services. They are putting money into it. I think it's a dual-fold issue. You have a lot of really, really powerful drugs coming on the market with a workforce of people that are not necessarily equipped to deal with it, and we don't have enough beds in this county. And so it turns into this big problem where, like we had with Measure 110, things were legalized, people were not getting put in, you know, to any real consequence. And so next thing you know, it snowballs, we don't have nearly enough beds, everybody's trying to do catch up. And here we are 6 years later, essentially, finally starting to catch up, finally. And now the new drugs are coming on. And the things that we used to do to fix it don't work anymore. And so now we're trying to catch up on that. We're always 2 years behind, right? So you can make your differences where you can. And that's really the most important thing. I would say that the city hasn't necessarily done anything wrong to me because I've refused it. I've refused to take a lot of the stuff that was offered because I don't want to be beholden, right? And so it's on me. But I wanted to do something different, right? I just didn't want to be another program. I wanted to do something different. And so I'm taking a lot of risk, and that's okay. I have a lot of faith in a very powerful God, and he's brought me here, and so why would he let me down, you know? And that's just how I operate, so.
So what do you feel about TPI,
What is that?
transition projects?
I haven't worked with them. I
What
don't know.
about Central City Concern?
Central City Concern is an interesting outfit. They have a lot of different services, right? A ton. They do good in certain areas, and then others I question as to how it's working. I think our situation on 122nd and Burnside is the reason why I got death threats, you know, trying to open up my detox. Because that was the only conception of what people had for what a treatment center is. Yet, a mile away down the road on 123rd and Foster is what I'm doing, and nobody even knew that it was there, right? And so,
Well, is it true, and I don't know, I've never been in the facility, I've heard that in Central City Concern's main lobby, they have a table with your pipes, your tinfoil. Is that accurate, or is that just?
not necessarily. So there's more of those services that are being like brought out to, it's harm reduction
Right,
services,
right.
right? And that's the term that they use for it. And frankly, I used those services when I was on the street. Again, I'm no better than anybody. Back then, though, they didn't bring it to you. You had to go find it, which made it just a little bit harder, right? And I think that those are the type of things that I try to look at from my recovery, which is anecdotal. My recovery is anecdotal. It's not, you know, gospel. But it's anecdotal in to say, like, we have to make it just hard enough to survive out there, but just easy enough to get services. And so I really struggled with bringing it to them because part of the reason why I didn't want to stay on the street anymore was because it was hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag. That's all I can say.
It's a complex issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it starts at the border with the cartels,
Yeah.
who are more nimble than we are.
Yeah.
They're now going to Canada and doing their stuff from the northern border. We'll have to build a wall up there. And then you come to a city like Portland, that has suicidal empathy and will not look at the problem for what it is. And in fact, they are codependent and facilitators of this because they hand out needles. They don't make it hard for these people. And it's documented. People say, you know, I get up in the morning, I get high. I have breakfast, I get high. I take a nap, I eat my dinner, I get higher. And there's a man in Portland who I know you know, Dahlgren, and he does some amazing documentation about what was going on the street. He was a social worker, and he's just done an amazing video with his photographer, who's a true artist, of documenting these people who have been on the street for many years and nobody approaches them. And they're in the part of town, Old Town, where there's a concentration of NGO funded things and they never talk to these people. But the video he's just done shows these people 10 years ago. I know I don't want treatment, I want to do this, I want to do that, and now they're dead. And he shows a picture. And every day he goes out, he's giving Narcan to somebody or he trips over a dead person. The city's allowing this to happen. It doesn't have to happen. We passed that Measure 110, I think it was. I mean, we have to look at how responsible we are for the suffering that's going on the street.
Yeah.
And we're not severe with ourselves at all. We're allowing this insanity. And the people who are doing this are insane. They're insane or they're very greedy. There's something very horrible going on. Because if we wanted to stop it, we could stop it.
I think, okay, so
I think.
the empathy is the piece of it. That's the biggest one. And you called it suicidal empathy. I can understand that to an extent. They're trying to figure out a way to do this differently because our success rates have been abysmal for decades. You know, and that's the problem. It's like, you know, we can't fix it with jail. I'm a product of that. It didn't work. It was a motivator, 100%. But it wasn't something that stopped the cycle.
There's no expectations. That's what Dahlgren says all the time. There's no expectations, but they get everything they need to live on a subsistent level without dying. And I just met an addict who actually was sober 5 years on heroin and fentanyl in Las Vegas. And to get away from, she said the cartels were moving in and she moved to Portland. And I said, how's that working for you? And she just went, but she said she was clean and she was living in a shelter here where the girl upstairs was doing fentanyl in the shelter. Now, we shouldn't allow that.
They didn't allow it with me back then. They kicked
But
me
this
out
was
a lot.
2 weeks, this is less than 2 weeks ago I met this girl, and it's in my neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I wish I had better answers. I wish I had more. What I will say, which is something that we were talking about at the table there before, is a lot of the times when somebody comes up and asks you, have you been helped? Your first response is always no when you're living out there in those communities because you want people to feel pity. So therefore they will take action and it's a form of manipulation. That's what I did. That's what most of the people that I lived with in those tents did. And so the nobody's ever talked to me thing is very normal. That we all said that.
No, I understand that.
But what I will say is that, you know, and I'm not rebuttaling you at all. Believe me, I know. There's a lot of things that the city has tried to do that are not effective. I think we've learned that now, by far. I think last time I was here, Mayor Wilson stood up here and said, we have to acknowledge how bad things have got. He's right. I am coming at this from the other side of things. Instead of taking the county dollars and instead of taking all these grants and everything, I'm coming in from the private sector saying, okay, if the county can't do it, then let me. And so I'm just trying to make a dent, and I have 20 beds. I don't know how much of a dent I can make, but we've served 140 some odd people so far. And if even 10% of those gets sober,
Well,
then we
that's
have a
what's so
chance.
admirable. If you're keeping your statistics
Yeah.
and you can show that it can be done,
Yeah.
then others will replicate it. And this is what Dahlgren says. I mean, he had to leave this NGO. And that girl, actually, I don't want to disclose too much about what she said,
Sure.
but she was not happy at the way the place was run, the salaries that the people were getting, and that included the people upline. She told me a few things. And if you remember, Michael Schellenberger wrote a book called San Francisco, where he exposed all this drug thing. And there's a very famous video of this homeless person, I can't remember where he'd come from, somewhere downstate. And he's sitting in the heart of San Francisco with his phone, which was given to him by the city, saying, yeah, I'm here for the money, I get $500 a month. And Schellenberger says to him, how'd you get that? And he says, you just apply for it, they give it to you. And they bring you your free needles, and they have food clinics, and you can get your food. And the weather's always great. That is not helping people, that's enabling people. And I think that cities are stuck in an enabling pattern unless you get somebody who knows what the word no means and is prepared to use it, which the new mayor of San Francisco seems to be doing. He said you can't live on the streets anymore. I don't know exactly what he's doing with them, but apparently it's cleaned up. You see, it affects all of us, doesn't it? Because then they go in and they rob the stores, everything's locked up, it's miserable, and then they're looking for money. I was nearly robbed in the Pearl.
That's true.
You know, it's not just them that are suffering.
No.
We're all suffering.
Which, you know, and that's why I built this, you know, because the ones that do want it, they do hang out for 5 to 7 days instead of 2. It's not a spin drive. They have a chance to get it. If we can stop the crime, then we can stop what's happening as a result. Because drug use, in my experience, leads to crime because you can't afford it.
Yeah.
You can't do it, you know? So we always went crime. That's what we did. And that was a method of survival, right? I built this for that reason. I feel like if I can make a change in my old neighborhood where I grew up, maybe the folks down the road, maybe 10 years from now, it can be that ripple.
Are you from Portland?
Born and raised.
Where
Right
you
down the
from?
road over here, 70th and Clapton. What's that? Oh,
He's
sorry.
just talking to himself.
I've got a couple of interesting news stories here that I just surfed off. They said that report over half of Clark County's homeless were newly homeless in 2025. And it's scrolling down here, where are people from? Why are they becoming homeless? 20% said because homeless, simply because they couldn't afford housing. Below that, domestic violence. Others also report eviction, the housing crisis, substance abuse, and alcoholism as reasons. KOIN has a story that 2 more bars, longtime bars in Portland are closing because of declining alcohol sales. People, I guess, are more health conscious, alcohol is more expensive, and people don't want to go into areas to bars to drink where there are homeless.
It's possible.
Self-manifesting spiral.
It's possible.
If you're a mayor or county chair or in the position to make all the decisions to solve this problem, and what would your ideal, if you could make any rule or regulation, what would you do to solve this problem?
I don't think we could solve it real easy. I don't think that there's a great answer for that. But what I would say is that there's enough evidence to show that, like DUI treatment, if you get a DUI, you're way less likely to get another, right? Because it does screw up your life just enough. You're not a felon, so you're not stopped from doing a lot of things. It's expensive, it's time consuming, you can face further
Lose your
penalties.
license?
You can lose your license, you can go through some stuff. And that would really be my thing that just seems to always make sense in my mind when I think about it, because I was a felon, right? And I finally got my record expunged after being in recovery for 12 years. I worked very hard to do that, just to be able to not check that box anymore. And I paid thousands of dollars to get that record gone, so I don't have to say that anymore.
So what are you saying?
What I'm saying is that I think that there should be just enough accountability where it will create a cycle of change without a hard penal hammer. Because a hard penal hammer doesn't do it.
So you
It's a
said
mix.
that, you said that you've got people that want help,
Mhm.
and those are the people that you invite in.
Right.
What do we do with the people that don't want help?
Make it so where it's just painful enough that they want to change.
And what would that be?
The way that I was living 15 years ago, I know for a fact that if the services that were brought to the tent communities today were around 15 years ago, I would be dead. And the evidence of that is every person that I was in my tent community with, as far as I know, is dead. All of them. I have no friends from that era. None. I'm one that survived. So what I know is that though it was accessible in the sense that we could do it, and I did survive out there it wasn't a short time. I mean, in the grand scheme of life, it was pretty short, but for, about 2 years, I was running that cycle. It was not easy, right? And so that kind of leads me back to it's the hammer thing. You can't give them everything to survive, but you also can't give them nothing. So you kind of have to go in a more moderate stance. If it's, we're not going to bring the needles and the cooking supplies and the food and stuff to your tent community, but we offer it here. And what we will do is drop you off flyers to let you know that we're here. And then while you're here, you're going to get services. We're going to talk to you about what's available. We're going to try to find you resources to get you out of here. It would remove a lot of the riffraff that I think is happening because it's easier. It just is. I do night strike down in the community, and I'll cut folks' hair. And I did run into one guy several years ago who I used to live in the tents with, and he said, "Oh man, where you been?" And I was like, "Well, I changed, and he said, "You should come back. It's so much easier now." And I said, "No, I like where I'm at, and he said, "No, you have no idea. They bring you the stuff now."
Exactly.
And it was sad,
Who's supplying this stuff?
The taxpayer.
We are.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a mix of philanthropy and tax dollars for folks because they're trying. And again, this is where the rub comes, right? This is a complex issue. If it would have worked 20 years ago, then it would have worked then. But I don't know that the pendulum that we've swung is helping at all, or if it's making it worse. In my experience, it's making it worse. And so we don't really swing crazy back and forth. We kind of have to maybe go back to where it was 15 years ago, maybe a little bit harder in the sense that we give people diversion when they get caught with drugs, or a DUI type program when they get caught with drugs, rather than a felony and thrown in prison and all that stuff, because that doesn't help, right? If that helped, then every state that had really, really intense drug laws, nobody would use them. But they sure do. The drugs are everywhere. It's not any different. Meth is all over. Red states, blue states, super red counties, super blue counties, it doesn't matter, right? The drugs are there. And so my perspective of it is it has to be a centric point of view where it's not super hard penally and it's not super socially funded. It's somewhere in the middle.
Should the hammer come down hard on the drug makers,
Oh yes,
drug
that is
distributors?
where I would go completely into the penal. Those, I mean, it's hard to justify anything other than severe punishment for
Public aim.
manufacturer, the shirts that say kill your local fentanyl dealer. I love those ones, right? Because I'm not saying that we should kill them, but I'm also saying we got to throw them
They're
away.
killers.
Yeah, we got to throw them away. There's blood on their hands.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends are dead because of the folks that are peddling that stuff, right?
There are many people who absolutely deny that there's any fentanyl or meth coming across the border.
Okay.
I mean, they're in absolute
called
denial, or
delusion.
they will, you know.
Yeah, where is it coming from then? I mean,
Yeah.
whether it's the border, the ocean, through the rivers, I don't care where it's coming from. The people that have their hands on it that are making it are destroying lives, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's really what it comes down to for me. And you know, I think that they should absolutely throw the book at people that are manufacturing it. Absolutely.
Dahlgren had a reel on Instagram and Facebook here the other day about all the people that he'd interviewed over the last few years and how many of them were gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, believe me, I've had a hell of a career.
But don't you think, I mean, it is so complex that we have to change the way we live. And we shouldn't glorify drug use. Like, nobody cares if you're smoking pot. It's just like accepted. You know, people go to weddings and there's marijuana all over the place. You know, film stars apparently do that. We've normalized a degenerate society, and we accept degenerate behavior.
Yeah.
And we then, in the next breath, we're saying we're going to get rid of the police, and then we're going to not have mandatory sentencing for things. If people had to think that something was going to happen to them if they didn't behave themselves, or they scattered when the police came, that would make life more difficult. But people are coming here because it's easier than it is in some other states.
Yeah.
Like that girl got out of Nevada, for example, but you know, I've heard of other things as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and that's a tough one for me. And the reason why I say that is there's 2 drugs that you can die from during detox. 2. And that's benzos, so Xanax, Klonopin, you know, those sort of things, and alcohol.
Yes.
The most deadly thing that we deal with in the substance abuse community is alcoholism. It's not fentanyl and it's not meth. Those are very simple, straightforward. It sucks. They go through exorcism. They may look like they're going to die, but they don't. It's the 60-year-old man that's been drinking for 20 years that comes in and immediately has a seizure and is affected for the rest of his life. And so I struggle with both, right? I don't think that the marijuana should be so readily accessible. I don't think it's a great idea. You know, call it a gateway drug or call it whatever you want. It leads you into the wrong things generally. But alcohol does too. And I think that that's where I run into my struggle, is that, like, I'm abstinent from all things. I love my caffeine though.
You love your what?
Caffeine, coffee.
Oh.
I love coffee. But I'm abstinent from
Low
all.
end of the speed spectrum.
Yeah, I love my coffee, but you know, I don't drink or use any drugs anymore because I know that it would drop my inhibitions into something else. That's my personal story, but it's real interesting, you know, because we don't talk that way about alcohol. We just don't, and that is normalized. It's everywhere, and it is the highest rate of relapse because it's in your corner store.
Yeah.
Everywhere. And so that one's
Should I bring someone over from the AA meeting next door to talk?
I probably know some of them guys, but you know, it's real, right? I mean, I don't know, you know, prohibition didn't work, of course, and I think that no matter what, if we took things away, people find a way to do it. Until we can stop the source, we don't have change.
But as Rosemary said, is for some reason we've normalized this as a society, as a culture.
Yeah.
And you know, people talk about Portugal and you've got legalized drugs, etc. The difference is that that's frowned on by culture.
Right.
But here in America, alcoholism, parties, blah blah blah, cocaine, all this stuff, it's sensationalized.
Yeah.
And so we have a culture problem with rock.
I would agree.
I'm from Ohio. Next month I've lived in Oregon 60 years. And I can remember even when I was a kid, you know, early teens and stuff here, you know, the nod, wink, flirt culture that Oregon had with drug use, intoxication, whatever. And, yeah, you know, Ann Arbor, Michigan, right outside Toledo, my hometown, they were the first place to decriminalize weed. And I think Oregon, you know, in the 70s was the second.
Yeah.
But there's been a real major stoner culture in this state for decades, you know, and they're not gonna flip that immediately.
No.
Yeah, but remember when all the alcoholics used to line up on Burnside? They could count them. There were 25 of them.
Well, let's face it,
And
the
now the whole place-
OLCC and the marijuana is all together.
It is at this point.
Well,
You
there's
know-
big money in it, and the state
Well,
wants the tax money.
marijuana, that money goes to OLCC. You know, so you got alcohol and you got marijuana.
Yeah,
They're making a bunch.
yeah.
And the only way you can't, I mean, Oregon State, they won't allow it.
That's why they legalized marijuana. So the
Yeah,
government could tax it and make money.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
But that was pushed by the marijuana users, because when I was here in the 70s, all the people I knew who were growing their own and whatnot, it's like, it's going to be legal one day because, you know, everybody's doing it, we're going to make so much money. And I couldn't believe it. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Even to our top politicians who are involved in this and have lost their positions. That's how addicting money is. Money's more addicting than alcohol, I think. But anyway.
But you got it, you know, and it's so far in the hole now that they're just,
Yeah.
what can you do?
Well, nothing other than promote that it's not something that, you know, is good for you, right? I mean,
Yeah.
We
it's
have to
really,
educate people. And everybody's worthy. See, when you say you have people who have been sober for 3 days and they're starting to normalize again, give them something to do.
Yeah.
That people can see them doing it, whether it's sweeping the street, gardening in the parks, something, and people will come and say, wow, great job. Their self-esteem goes up.
Purpose.
They
Purpose
just
is
have,
recovery.
it gives them purpose in life. Everybody's got to have something to do. It's one of the 5 things of happiness, something to do, so, you know.
Which is why I say that
Yeah.
I don't think that we should put a penal hammer of prison time or
But
felonies.
that would
or
be a
anything.
penal hammer to them because, like you said, you want to sit in your tent all day and do your drugs. You don't want to go out and
Until
have to
you-
do anything.
In the cycle of addiction, I will agree with you.
Yes.
It's when you break it that you have a moment of sanity, where you can say, okay, like, you know, here's a chance to get your stuff back together. And that's the issue on my side, is that when I tried to get back to work, the very first place that I applied at was a rock quarry. And they were gonna pay me $9 an hour to throw boulders around, right? The lady called me and said, hey, I just wanted to go over your criminal background. I said, okay, no problem, let's talk about it. I'm an open book. I'm in recovery. I've been in recovery now for X amount of time. I think I had 4 months at that point. And she said, well, I just wanted to let you know that your dates were wrong. And I said, oh, I'm real sorry about that. Okay, so tell me what I did wrong. And I had, you know, 5 or 6 charges, and I was 2 days off on this one, and 1 week off on this one, and 5 days off on this one. And I said, oh, okay, I really appreciate you letting me know. So I'm gonna change those dates moving forward. Are we gonna continue with another interview? And she went, oh, no way. I just wanted to let you know that you screwed up. And so that's, you know, like, when you have that type of criminal record and you're trying to get yourself back into the workforce, my first job was at McDonald's cleaning toilets. That was the only job I could find. And it's you know, I did it because I was willing, but not everybody is. You know, I think that the problem with addiction is that it comes with the death of your ego, right? And your recovery comes with your death of the death of your ego, not your addiction. Your addiction thrives on your ego, but if you don't have that death of your ego, you can't walk in to McDonald's and go make $7 an hour again, right? You have to go back into something to get more and do better and all this stuff. And so when you come into something as, you know, and I had simple possession stuff. I wasn't some major guy, right? I didn't have crazy charges on my record. I just had drug stuff. And I couldn't get a job for $10 an hour. And then I had that job at McDonald's, and they only worked me part-time because they didn't trust me. And then I got a job at Home Depot, thank God, and I worked the overnight shift because they were desperate to fill it. And then I got another job working for a guy as a cider. So I had 3 jobs, and I slept for 5 hours a night in my early recovery, just killing myself, trying to be successful again. And then I go to try to rent an apartment, and I can't because I'm a felon. And so I had to get a girlfriend so where she could get the apartment. It's a true story, right? I'm not, there's no BS here, right? This is how it was for me. So my girlfriend got the apartment, and they didn't know that I lived there. And it's all because of possession. So like, I'm not saying that, we shouldn't be punitive. We need accountability, not books thrown at us, right? And so it's a middle ground. That's why I'm saying it's a really interesting thing. I wouldn't be here today had I not gotten that second job at McDonald's or at Home Depot. I know it. I would have just said, all right, screw it. I can't work at McDonald's for the rest of my life. I'll be a loser forever. No, it's not happening. And I just, and instead I just worked my way up, and I had just enough humility to bow my head down and clean the toilet.
But you said you worked at Home Depot, and they do a lot with veterans. I go in, I see women with their veterans towels. So veterans are suffering a lot with
Sure.
substance abuse. But I think this is why the city comes in, because there's so many things that were taken care of when I was a kid. The parks were always beautiful, the buildings were always clean. We didn't have any of that. There's tons of stuff that these people could go out and work at under the guise of a government worker. Now,
Sure.
I'm not saying they should get all the benefits, they shouldn't, but they could be in an institution somewhere where they got 3 squares and a clean bed and a bath.
Good.
And that's your transition period. And once you've got your head around having to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and falling asleep and being tired at night, which I've given them some structure in their life, eating better, you're going to have a more healthy person who's more prepared to go out and then look for a job, which is soul destroying sometimes.
I would agree. And there are several programs that do it.
Oh, do they?
Oh, yes. But it just depends on if they have the right funding and if they can work it all out. And there's a lot of those programs that have moved and shaked, and some of them aren't around anymore and others are. Blanchet Farms is a perfect example. They work out in the field all day. It's awesome. They get 3 outs and a cot, and they get purpose.
Yeah.
But,
What would you say if you had to grade it on a scale of 1 to 10, the importance of structure in the recovery?
in recovery, it's everything. It's everything. It's 10 out of 10. If you don't have it, my best thinking got me into jails, institutions, and on death's doorstep. I don't have, I did not have cognitive capability to make the right decisions. I needed somebody to help me. And without guardrails, you'll just kind of see where you can exploit. Because that's just what, speaking as somebody that did it, I did that, right? I'm not any better. So it's like, I get why we think the way that we do when we're in addiction, and I get why we think the way that we do in early recovery. We gotta try to fight to survive. It's a survival mechanism for us to try to get as much as you can and think about what's next. And if somebody's not like, hey man, chill out, you need to go to a meeting. And by the way, you have to do 5 this week because we really need you to get engaged. And if it wasn't for those people giving me 5 meetings a week that I had to be at, I would have never met my sponsor. I would have never invoked, the steps and gotten God in my life and done all these things. Nothing would have happened. I would have just sat in my room and felt sorry for myself that I was working at McDonald's cleaning toilets. So it would have happened,
And so how important is God, or was God and is God in your life, and how important do you think it is for other people that want to get clean?
God's a tricky word in recovery because most of us are super resentful, and I was too. I'm not any different. It took me 10 years to really wrap my head around what God was. My original sponsor, thank God for him, because he sat me down and said, in this program you can choose whatever you want. I don't care what it is. You just have to have something that's bigger than you. And that led me to, you know, a different conception over time, but it took 10 years for me to give up that resentment against, you know, my creator. It did. Most of us are
So
super.
you weren't God-fearing prior to?
Oh, no. No. I was God resenting. I was very angry.
And what would you say the percentage of people living on the street are God-resenting?
All of them.
All of them.
Most, I mean, you know, you'll find your occasional.
Yes.
Let me take that back. You'll find your occasional that is a God-fearing person that has that experience and has had emotional upheaval sufficient enough to potentially bring about recovery. Circumstances, life, and spiritual forces bring them back down, right? But overwhelmingly, they go, I don't want anything to do with God. I'm furious right now. And that's okay. It's okay. It's a matter of giving them some space to let God in.
Isn't that part of your recovery, though, that you want to blame somebody?
Of course.
Like the city or
course.
whatever.
Yeah.
Once you start taking responsibility for yourself, then you've recovered.
Yeah, and that's hard to do.
Yeah,
It's really hard to do.
My neighbor does, she volunteers at Shepherd's Door
Okay, yeah.
and does the women, helps with the
Love
women's
it.
program. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, she's doing it, she does it every Friday.
Mhm.
It's great,
I love it.
yeah. And she sees some that don't make it through the program.
Yeah.
And then there's other ones that graduate and doing really well, that have kids,
Yep.
you know, and stuff, yeah. It's,
Yeah.
it's
I work with them pretty closely. We've
yeah,
gotten
they're
quite a
really
few.
nice, they're really good.
Yeah. They do a lot of really solid work. It's a tough concept though to say, oh, I'm going to go and give myself to a program for a year
Yeah, yes.
because you're like, I
I
haven't
think there's
made
like 6 steps that they have to go through.
right
And,
phases or whatever. Yeah.
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 So she does the Bible studies with them. and stuff,
Yeah.
so-
It's
Isn't that kind of the structure that you're talking about?
It's in an ideal world, yes. So like detox is 5 to 7 days, residential treatment, which is the theoretical next step in the American Society of Addiction model. You know, this is how it goes. And you'll do residential for 25 to 35 days. You'll do what's called partial hospitalization, or now they call it high intensity intensive outpatient. You'll do 5 days a week, you know, 6 hours per day of groups therapy, of, you know, talk therapy, all sorts of different stuff. You'll do that for about 6 to 7 weeks, sometimes 8, just depending on how bad your case is. And then you'll go down to 3 days a week at 3 hours per session. And then you'll go down to 1 day a week at 1 hour per session. And then you'll go down to just weekly or bi-weekly meeting with your therapist, and monthly. And ideally, the whole process takes about a year for you to really regain consciousness as far as like a repaired brain. They say that your brain doesn't really come back around for 90 days at least. And that's for those neural pathways that somebody was mentioning earlier.
Yeah, because the guy that was at the Rep Trans meeting, he said that it was sometimes 9 months.
It can be. It just kind of depends on you, and it depends on how much you're willing to let go of preconceived notions.
Well, you were talking about employability. I knew a guy that was sales manager at Pro Caliber Motorcycle in Vancouver. And he said that I was always trying to get him to come to the events that my friend and I, our organization puts on. He says, I don't have the manpower. I said, what do you mean? He says, I can't find help. What? And he says, either they can't pass a drug test, they've got too many felonies to insure since it was a motor vehicle dealership, or they work 2 days and we never see them again, or 1 day. You know, so he said they were just running the skeleton crew. I mean, if you've been in Linco ever since COVID, you know, they a lot of times they have to shut their customer service down because they can't get enough employees to run the registers.
It's tough. It's tough all the way around. I mean, it's culture, like was mentioned earlier, but yeah, the brain takes a while to come back. It does.
What do you think about second chance work programs for businesses to take these people in fresh out of recovery that may have 10 felonies and give them an opportunity to learn some transferable work skills? Make not a lot of money to give them money in their pocket to go out and use again, but enough money to buy toiletries, to buy maybe the soda that they want while they're in recovery. What do you think about those types of programs?
I think that's a really mixed bag for employers, right? And that's speaking as an employer myself. right? I have 41 employees at the Detox. We have a lot of stuff going on, and it can get pretty dangerous in our environment. We had a couple of different partners that we worked with my sober living, where we would get people a job essentially right away. If they were in our program, they would. And both of those employers said, I'm done with your guys. They're driving me nuts and I can't keep them here. And they all leave within a week and all this sort of stuff. And so it's a lot. It's a
It is
lot.
hard. I did it for 7 years,
Yeah.
for the first 7 years of my business.
Yes.
I worked with Bridges to Change.
Yeah, there you go.
I brought a woman in. I worked with each woman individually for a year.
Yeah.
I counseled her. I taught her how to run the cafe.
There
I
you go.
got her a health food card. I got her some slip-proof shoes. I got her a phone.
Yeah.
But my thing is this is volunteer.
Yes.
This is something that you've got to want, need, and desire for change in your life, for a space and a place that is safe.
Yeah.
That you're not out on the streets, you're not in communities where you're gonna be around people that are actively using.
Right.
You're here in a place and in a community, and the customers were really receptive to it.
Sure.
What do you think about those types of programs? Do you think we need more of those kind of things?
They would definitely help. Absolutely. Again, it's purpose. It's purpose. Some of those felonies, I think, could probably be taken off of those folks' records. There's other ones that can't, right? The real violent stuff and all that, there's nothing that we can do on that part, but for the ones that are like basic, simple possession stuff that, your life's gotten ruined because of some crappy decisions in the wrong place and wrong time, those ones I'm a lot more receptive to. And I think that, like I said, it was really tough for me to get my bearings working at the lowest possible job that I could part-time, and I had nothing. So if there was a different type of work program, like what's that thing that they have out there in Astoria?
Job Corps?
Job Corps. That was awesome back in the day. There was a lot of friends that I had.
I drove bus for the Springdale Job Corps.
There you go.
That was very interesting.
Where'd they go, right? Are they still around? I haven't really heard anything about those places for a while, and even those places had structure. You couldn't drink on there, you couldn't smoke tobacco on those on the property. There's a lot of things. My brother went through OICP, my brother-in-law went through OICP when he was a kid. So there's like a lot of things that can push you into purpose and get you out of where you are. I think that it just kind of depends on the context. Like for mine, I can't have folks that are working with us that are like just on the edge of being clean. It gets a lot more into ethics and all sorts of fun stuff, and the dangers of working in treatment in early recovery. They are very, very, very present. It either kills you or it makes you into a superpower of recovery. But most of them, it's not healthy.
Do you know James Casper?
No.
Oh, he does a recovery out of over in Hazeldale and.
Oh, that hotel thing?
Mhm.
Yeah, so he sold it to a different couple,
Right.
or lost it or whatever.
Well,
Yeah.
he was just trying to buy the old Centennial Mills building or whatever in
Oh, was
Portland.
he?
Yeah, and he said the zoning and permitting is so much of a nightmare, he'll spend his money elsewhere. Yeah, I met him a couple of times. He's really something.
Yeah. I have my sober livings in Vancouver, and I did reach out to his organization. And I don't really know what happened there, but I do know that it's no matter where you go, it's tough in this environment to get any sort of zoning for any sort of thing. It's rough. So it took us 2 years to get open.
Is that not completely backwards? That it'd be difficult to get the zoning?
Well, that's also a mixed bag. It's a middle of the road type of thing for me, because if you make it super easy, the types that will come here to abuse and take advantage of people, they will flock. I mean, if you go down to Orange County, California, you throw a rock and you hit 5 treatment centers on any block down there. I walked into one because I was meeting with another provider down there, and I just saw XYZ treatment center, whatever the name of it was, and I walked in and I said, hey, my name is Billy, and I live in Vancouver. And I said, hey, they said, what are you doing here? I said, oh, well, I'm from Washington. And the girl went, ghost white. Because she thought I was from DC. She thought I was
I thought you were
she
fed?
thought I was a Fed coming to bust them. And I was like, oh, what do you guys do here? Why do you want to know? I was like, oh. I walked out, but that's there's a lot of other really insidious parts of treatment where people will abuse these systems that we have.
Do you see that in Portland?
No. One thing that has really benefited us is how hard it is to open programs here has kept away a lot of that riffraff. In other states it's a lot easier.
And then you get the riffraff when it's easier.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, he doesn't look much like Nick Shirley, do you think?
There's a lot of people out there, they're not necessarily drug users, they just have a hard life. Like I was talking to a guy at the park.
Yeah.
Hey, join the gym so I could take a shower. Lives in his car, and he said he simply can't rent anything because he has bad things on his record.
Sure.
He said he's got money, he has a job, but he simply can't rent anything. There's a lot of people out there like that.
There is.
And that's a whole different program. I mean, a whole different ballgame than what you're doing.
It is. And
There is a lot of people out there like that.
that's one thing that I will say that Washington has done really well is they have these community workers that we work with the folks in the prison to get people, off the street and stuff. And if they are leaving prison, we'll bring them into our sober living. And they may not really identify as having a substance use disorder, but it was definitely part of their history. And as long as they go to the meetings and they do what, we ask them to, they can come and have their lives changed. And so it's kind of that mixed thing with us on that. The state of Washington has done pretty well, and they call it reentry, graduated reentry programs. And I'm very proud to be a member of one of their things. Some of these guys are completely turning their lives around. Multiple of them have turned into like leaders in my houses and house managers, and they've they got possession or custody of their kids back. Like it's really cool. I really enjoy that part of sober living. It's the only reason why I do it. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense financially. But it's a mixed bag, right? I mean, who needs it more? The folks that are actively using drugs and psychosis that you can maybe detox and get them off, who are causing a lot of it, or the guy that's being respectful, living in his car, having the gym membership and doing the things. I don't know.
Out of one of the buildings I worked in, they had mostly people were supposed to go through rehab there.
Uh-huh.
Most of them didn't even go, but they're in the building. So, but out of 30 people, I knew of 3 that made it through the program successfully.
Out of how many?
Only 3 out of 30. It's
out
not
of
very
30.
good, is it?
I am me and one other guy out of the 95 people I went to treatment with are the only ones that are still alive or sober.
Yeah. Yeah, there wasn't a day went by when I didn't have to call the fire department, the police, or the ambulance. Every day.
Luckily,
Yeah.
the way that I run my houses, we have had very few instances. We've had the ambulance twice and the cops 4 times in 6 years.
Well, it's like they'd be passed out in the stairwell or something, or all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Fights, just different things.
Yeah.
Some of them just OD'd,
Yeah. Yep.
So what do you think of Adult and Teen Challenge?
It's a really cool program. Again, it's really hard to sell it to people because they're like, I don't want to go somewhere for a year.
Yeah, it's a year. Yeah, we
Yeah.
got somebody in and he stayed there for 6 months and walked out.
And in that 6 months, let's just hope that there was a real hearty seed that was planted, that he knows what it's like to live in, a longer term amount of recovery. I told myself I'd give it a year. And if I was still miserable, I would either kill myself or just go use drugs again.
Oh, he's still alive. We got him in an apartment over on 92nd.
That's awesome. So he has recovery in his life?
Well, I don't think he has any recovery.
Okay, fair enough.
He's
But-
an
still
alcoholic.
drinking.
He's an alcoholic.
And fair enough, but he
Yeah.
had a chance, right, to
Yeah.
learn what it was like to be like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the only upside that you can see is to stories like that. But it's so hard to sell it to people. They don't see what it's going to be like. All they see is fear.
Yeah.
I'm going to be locked up for a year? Hell no. That's what
Yeah.
we usually get. And it's like, well, do you want a different life? Because this is your opportunity. It will drastically change your life, whether you like it or not. But nobody wants to do it, So most of the time people will agree to a 30-day program or a 60-day program or even a 90-day if you're lucky. But a year, when they hear that, they just get shell-shocked and it's really hard to get them. You'll get the occasional one that's super motivated and they'll do anything. And those are awesome. Those are awesome stories if they stay.
One visual that I will not soon forget is out on 136th and Division. There's a school, an elementary school, and there was a guy. All I could see was wearing jeans, and that was it. He was passed out on the sidewalk, laying up onto somebody's front yard, and the kids, look, they were maybe 9, 10 years old, were walking along on their phones and just stepping over his body and carrying on like it wasn't even there, you know? So, I mean, imagine how they're gonna grow up as desensitized or whatever it is as to what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I pulled into the Walmart down on the 82nd one time, and there was a guy flopped off a bicycle laying on the grass, and nobody noticed, nobody cared.
Yeah.
It's just become that part, that, you know, much of the landscape that people don't even notice.
I will say, I mean, I grew up on 82nd back when it was, you know, old 82nd, and I'm very desensitized to that stuff. I don't want to raise my kids around it, of course, but, you know, I'm very desensitized. I understand their desensitization. There was nothing you could do even back then, 20 years ago, and it was gross back then. 82nd was nasty, but, you know, that's just where we grew up.
Yeah.
But
First, I think I'm the oldest one in the room, and I have never, not even one puff of a marijuana cigarette,
Awesome.
whatever you call it, had any kind of drugs.
you're blessed.
So I'm very proud of that, because
Yes.
it would have been easy.
Mm-hmm.
But is anybody going into schools and talking about if you get caught, and you will get caught eventually,
Mm-hmm.
what can happen to your life? You won't even be able to get a job at Burger King.
Yes. Yeah.
There are people?
There are, you know,
I was gonna say they should be doing this in the high school, and then I thought, no, they probably should
Grade
start
school.
about kindergarten.
Yeah.
yeah, they did in my old high school, and it was an old classmate of mine that went in and did it.
Marshall?
No, I didn't. My mom wouldn't let me go to Marshall. She faked my address to get me into Cleveland. Her exact words were, "You're not going to Marshall with your gangbanger friends. That's not happening."
There was a mark on the.
Cleveland's gonna
on
be
the
at
campus.
Marshall now,
Yeah,
for at least 3 years.
I just went and
I live over near there.
Oh, do you?
I can see the school from my house.
Yeah, I
We
went.
put in a brand new football field.
I saw.
Yeah.
I went and visited me and my wife because that's where we met, and I got to walk through the halls with her one last time before they knock it down.
Yeah, they're putting a new roof on Marshall and everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, my brother went to Marshall, my older brother, one of them, and you know, my mom was like, "Hell no."
Aaron, if the city's spending all that money on a new football field, new roof at Marshall, they gonna keep that thing open after?
They'll probably, somebody else will use the
Cleveland will
field.
be there for 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and then, you know, there was talk years ago that, the head Blanchard, you know, the offices for the Portland Public Schools, would take over and be at Marshall.
It's a beautiful building.
Well, yeah, and, yeah, anyway, but that was years ago, and now they're just saying that maybe they'll keep it open for staff meetings and testing and, you know.
I just don't wanna see, I don't wanna see them spend all this money on a new football field, new roof and all this, and 3 years from now, all the high schools are rebuilt and they
Right.
leave it
Well,
vacant.
What they done before, they leased it out to like, semi-pro leagues and stuff around Portland, playing their football and soccer leagues played there a lot. Even the schools been closed for a couple of years now. But the
It's
field
been closed for a
was
couple of years?
open for public use
Yeah.
too. I go down the track and walk around the track.
Yeah, because Franklin went there, so Marshall shut down, and then they did some renos, and then
And
Franklin
Benson
was
went there.
Franklin there, and then
Benson
Franklin
went
got
there,
rid, and then
Cleveland.
Benson, and
Yeah.
now it's Cleveland. Yeah, so it's been closed for years at this
Oh,
point.
yeah.
But
So it's not like it was a total waste of money. I mean, people do use it, you know.
yeah,
I use it myself.
It's interesting how there's been all these schools that have gone there to Marshall's and to have their remodel. But then there's been like Roosevelt, they didn't go anywhere. They stayed there to have their remodeling done. But this time, I haven't figured it out why, but I mean, Grant and all of them, Franklin, all these. First of all, the Grant parents didn't want them to come to Marshall.
Yep.
But then they came over and had a tour of it. And they, well, this is newer than ours. But having Cleveland there, all of a sudden, they are requiring more than the other schools?
As far as what? As far as updates?
Yes,
The new roof,
right.
the new field.
Right.
hey,
mean,
Phil
all
Knight
these-
gave us that field when I was going there. It was a big deal.
This one in Cleveland?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
anyway.
he donated that
And
field.
the
Yeah.
music program and all that, yeah, you know, Grant had the blues and all, you know. But, of course, I'm partial to, I've been working with the PTA Clothing Center, which has been at Marshall for
Years.
20 years, and provides all this clothing and stuff for kids that go to the public schools. And now that Cleveland and all these other schools have not said, well, we need this, and so you need to move out of there. So they've moved the clothing center over to a place that is like half the size of what they had.
It was at Marshall and Cleveland being moved?
Yes. And so we're having a discussion with a lot of people.
I think the Cleveland PTA is a little bit,
But they, they have,
Full
they
themselves.
clothe thousands of kids, and stuff, but,
it's the Cleveland PTA.
Yeah, it's a Cleveland, yeah.
I don't know about that. It's a school district, they're saying no to us.
It was a big waste there. It was when Benson put in that shop there to learn kids.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, well, it was
And
good
now
for,
they're not using it.
now they use it for storage.
Yeah, and we would love to
Total
go over
waste
there.
of money.
There would be stuff, there would be enough room to put out and probably put in a washer and a dryer,
Yeah.
and anyway, that's
Anyway,
Go on, Marilyn, let's hear it.
it worked while Benson was there, but after that, it's nothing now,
After, in 3 years, it'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
what they're gonna do with the building.
Benson is the only reason why I learned how to work on cars. I have
Oh, yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
control
my
over
husband
that.
went
It was
to
a waste
Benson.
to build,
His
put
father
that much
went to
money into it
Benson,
for
you
2
know.
years that they were there.
My dad and I rebuilt old Mopars, and because he went to Benson.
What kind of Mopars?
I have a '69 Corvette that I've had since I was a kid, and we have
B-body?
all B-body Mopars for the most part. I got an A-body as well, but and I got a truck. We just got a '68 D100. It's pretty badass. Got a lot of patina though. I don't want to touch it. It's cool. But yeah.
Yeah, my son went to Marshall, and he graduated in the 96, and.
Oh, he probably knows
came
my
out-
brother.
Oh, and he came out because he worked on cars there,
Oh, cool.
and he's been working for the city of Portland on their fleet
That's
for
cool.
21 years.
Nice.
Well, I should say more than that, he'll get his 30 years in 3 years. So, yeah,
Nice.
they need more hands-on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to meet you all. I have brochures, I have cards back there with our main number on it. If you ever need to give them out, feel free. It doesn't bother me at all.
Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Very much enjoyed your talk.
Yep, we are adjourned.